Good morning. This is Rika Stenerson from MMB. Welcome to our WebEx. We're glad that you could join us today. It looks like we have about 80 people on the call, and I just want to let you know that we have all the phones on mute, so if you would like to submit questions to us, please use your chat feature and submit questions to the host, which is myself, Rika Stenerson. And today we have in the room with us to talk about recruiting solutions, we have Michelle Weber, our Director of Enterprise Resource Planning Systems, and we have Teresa Pivic and Elizabeth Nelson, who is going to talk at the end of our WebEx today about youth and leadership development programs for agencies. So if you can bear with us, we have a lot of information to cover. Michelle is here to provide us with the latest updates on what's happening with the system and what we're working on. And we just want to thank all of you for your patience and working with us and submitting your issues and concerns through the careers mailbox or through the job line. It's really helpful for us to have specifics and screenshots, so continue please to submit any issues that you're seeing. We are reviewing those logs on a daily basis and discussing them here and prioritizing. So thank you for that. Also, we are hosting an HR Town Hall meeting at the end of the month at the MSRS building in the training room. So get this on your calendars, January 27th, 8:30 a.m. to 10. We'll be talking more about the latest on recruiting solutions, and then also Elizabeth Nelson will be going into more detail about the youth development internship and program opportunities for this spring and summer. There are some deadlines with those programs, so it's important we get this information out. Anyone in the HR community is invited. Please make sure you inform your HR director as well about the meeting. We'll send out an invitation in the next newsletter. So I am going to turn it over to Michelle Weber for an update on recruiting solutions. And please, again, send your questions. We may not be able to answer all of them today, but we will be publishing information in the next newsletter with addressing your questions. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. And Rika has shown a display of a slide that I'm going to talk about in just a few minutes. I want to spend some time prior to going into some details about the visual that you're seeing before you, the Oracle People Tools overview, talking to you about recruiting solutions. I also want to reiterate Rika's appreciation. We are very appreciative of the work your agencies have been doing to help support the launch of the recruiting solution system. Having your staff and your teams and you yourselves reach out directly to your applicant agency and applicant support personnel here at MMB, as well as applicants working through our job line and providing us specific feedback on the system. To start out, wanted to share some context and statistics with all of you. As you may be aware, there was an email communication distributed last Friday from Deputy Commissioner Eric Hallstrom and Deputy Commissioner Jesse Ullman that provided some information about the volume of use the system has seen since being launched. So just wanted to give you an update on where things are at as of today. We have had a total of 684 external job postings on the recruiting solution system and 803 internal job openings posted. We have received a total of 641 a total of 8,000 applications, 8,080 applications. Just in the last few days, we've gotten 641 applications from internal candidates. The 8,080 applications was internal state employees applying through self-service. There were 3,793 applications from external applicants and 181 that came in through our accessible site. In addition, there have been 10,496 job search agents submitted or created. In the communication that went out from the deputy commissioners, some of the more high priority issues that we've been working on were highlighted, and an update was provided on them. So I wanted to let you know a bit about what's been occurring over the last week. First, I want to acknowledge that across many of our systems, I work with not just the Recruiting Solutions System, but Semaphore holistically, our Enterprise Learning Management, SWIFT, and the budget systems as well. And we have, over the last few weeks, we've experienced some intermittent performance issues, so have had a pretty significant focus on addressing those performance. And by performance, I mean slow down with the system. Either slow down in processes, slow down in response time for users as they're entering the systems and pulling up screens. And so we've been working with our Minute partners to address those performance, to have them focus on addressing those performance issues. And that has taken a significant amount of time. They have added some additional capacity in terms of hardware to support our systems and increase the performance of them. On the screening questions, we are experiencing this intermittently. So the screening questions and applicants, in some cases, their data not being saved when they've answered a required screening question or bypassed or been able to bypass the required screening question. One of the complexities with this is that we are challenged in terms of being able to specifically recreate it. So what we are doing is we are working on different strategies. First of all, a strategy to make sure that the system technically is not allowing applicants to move forward if they're required to answer a question. The other, though, is that we still, once implementing that fix late last week, we have also, since that time, had applicants where this is still occurring for them. So we are monitoring that information and that data where it's happening for the applicants. And what we're doing now is we're trying to look a little bit more behind the scenes in terms of when this occurs, is there something that may be happening on the hardware side? So we don't have an explicit solution yet, but we are still actively working on this. The circumstance where some of the workflow emails were not being delivered through the system, we were able to fix one of the circumstances where that's happening, and we are still working to address two other cases where it's not, where the emails are not being delivered. In cases where they're not being delivered, we are able to get notification of that, and we're able to reach out to the individuals and let them know about the workflow that they should have received a notification about. Job search emails, that is for individuals who have created job searches. We have circumstances that are causing that job to fail on us. It's an overnight process where email notifications should go out to individuals who have created job search agents. We have certain issues that are causing that job to fail, but it is currently not explicitly clear if it's one or multiple cases that are causing that. So we are actively testing resolutions and looking at potential customization fix within our system so that we can potentially, in a case where one job search agent, one email would cause the entire job to fail, having us skip over that email. That's one of the ideas that we've recently started discussing here internally and are actively pursuing whether or not that would be a viable solution for us. I've talked already about the slow system performance. Applicants unable to upload their resumes. We have still experienced some circumstances where applicants are contacting us yet this week with cases where they had difficulty uploading their resumes, and so we are available here to help if an applicant is unsuccessful in doing that. In some cases, it's a matter of us working with applicants for any of the issues. If they're getting error messages or unable to upload their resumes, we work with them, we provide them some tips, and in many cases that is helping to break through the challenges that the applicants are having. In circumstances where following the tips and the strategies that we have in place is not helping them, we are working with them, and this resume upload would be one of those cases where we've had a couple cases where we've attached the resume for the applicant. With respect to accessibility, we do have a larger scale effort associated with accessibility of the system. Tamara Sawyer at Minnesota Management and Budget, she is an expert that is working with us and has been dedicated now to help with the Recruiting Solutions team. She has been working with different applicants that use particularly screen readers, and she is documenting any usability issues. We have re-engaged work with Oracle to provide some context in terms of what we had previously done prior to launching the system to make the system as accessible and usable as possible for applicants. We had a third-party vendor do some testing of the system to identify any issues that they would see related to the WCAG 2.0 AA standards that need to be complied with technical systems. That third-party vendor identified some issues that we then started engaging our vendor, our software vendor, which is Oracle. And Oracle worked with us over the spring and summer to provide us some fixes for issues we deemed critical that would have impacted an applicant's ability to apply for a job. We have still received some reports about usability and difficulty that applicants, particularly those using screen readers, are having using the system. And so we have documented those items. We have shared those items with Oracle, and Oracle just yesterday participated in a phone conference with us where they are identifying areas where those items may be fixed or resolved, and things that we might need to, steps we might need to take, such as a people tools upgrade, which I'll talk about once I've gone through the some of the issues. Browser incompatibility is another issue that we've received some significant feedback about. The version of the browser that the system can support is very dependent on an underlying operating system we have, and this is where I'm going to turn to the screen that Rika has made available to all of you. The operating system that many of our statewide systems operate on is PeopleSoft, and the underlying foundation is something that is called People Tools. The way I like to describe this to people is that at your computer at work, you might have Microsoft Office, you might have Microsoft Visio, you might also have Adobe installed on your computer, but your underlying operating system is Windows. That's supporting those different software packages, and that is what People Tools is like. So People Tools provides the foundation under which we have built and developed each of our statewide systems. The version of People Tools that we are currently on is called version 8.5306. And as we worked with Oracle last summer, particularly on accessibility items, they suggested that there were a lot of fixes available to the state if we would upgrade our version of People Tools to a more recent version. When we go through a People Tools upgrade, it impacts not just one of our systems, but impacts all of our PeopleSoft systems. And the boxes below the header box that describes People Tools show that our portals, our self-service portal that people log into, that is also affected by a People Tools upgrade. Our Enterprise Learning Management System, Semaphore holistically, our Swift financial system, and then also our data warehouse. So it does take a significant amount of effort, timing, and coordination to move forward with a People Tools upgrade. We have business processes throughout the course of the calendar year that make it difficult to implement a People Tools upgrade during those high system need processes. Examples of that would be open enrollment, the W-2 processing that happens in January, our fiscal year close in June and August for our Swift system. And so what we've been looking at are when are windows of opportunities that we can move forward with a People Tools upgrade. We are actively in the planning stages to do that. We have identified that a desire to upgrade to People Tools 8.54. Our goal is to have that completely done within calendar year 2016, and we may have some systems, for example, Semaphore and Recruiting Solutions, for which the browser issue is significant, particularly because of the external user that is impacted by this, where we actually move forward with that upgrade for that system potentially sooner rather than later, where we have systems that are used less by external users. When we do a People Tools upgrade, it will allow us to be more compatible with more recent versions of browsers. A big browser that's been identified as Chrome, for example, our current version of People Tools is only compatible with a version of Chrome that is no longer available for users. So when we do the upgrade, it will provide more compatibility with more recent browsers as well as additional browsers. Right now, we are suggesting and will continue to suggest that users, to get the best experience, use Internet Explorer and Safari as their selected internet browsers. It sounds like a question came in about the number of job search agents, so I'm going to talk to that. There have been 10,496 job search agents that were created. Of that number, 3,690 were created by state employees and 6,806 were created by external applicants. Are there any other questions that have come in? Okay, we're just looking at the chat to see if there were any other questions that have come in. Another item that I want to draw some attention to that wasn't specifically itemized on the update that had gone out last week, but is one related to the job postings. Within the system, to manage and help support performance, there are certain things when you utilize an off-the-shelf software product, which we have done in the cases of all our PeopleSoft applications, so that affects Swift and Semaphore, Recruiting Solutions, Enterprise Learning Management as well, is that they come with certain settings within them. And one of the settings is that when an individual first logs on to the system to see what jobs are available, there is a setting that will only display 300 jobs, even though we may have more than 300 active job postings. Individuals can then do certain filtering along the left-hand side of the screen, and that brings up the types of jobs based on what their filter criteria is that they have established. Even though 300 jobs only display on the screens during that first login, any jobs in addition to the 300 will come up when you do the filtering. The most consistent information that is happening for users if they actually put in the keyword search the job posting number. So we want to encourage you to continue in your outreach efforts to share that job posting number and to indicate to users that they should use the keyword search when logging into the system to get that specific job posting. So with that, if there aren't any additional questions, I am going to turn it over to Teresa.
Great. Good morning, Teresa. Thanks for participating in the WebEx today. And also, I just want to reiterate your patience when working with us as we have implemented this new system. I wanted to give you a couple of updates, one regarding the screening questions issue and how my team and agency services will try to help you manage that issue. Currently, it's only impacting about 1% of our applicants, so it's a very small number. And I know when I attended the recruiters meeting last week, a question was asked, should we stop screening or should we stop asking questions? And I would encourage you to continue. I think it is good to get used to asking screening questions of our applicants. While right now we can't always rely on the using the automation in the system, if there are applicants in your particular job opening, that the answers to their questions are not being presented or brought into the system when you run screening. So I would encourage you to continue to use them. However, exercise caution when you are running screening to make sure that you check and see if someone is failing to verify whether they had answered those screening questions, and then that's where there may be a manual check required. Once you apply screening and you click that button in the screening section in the tab, you will not be able to move them. Or if you do and they sit in the rejection button, our team, your agency services rep, can help you move that applicant out of reject status. Again, it's a small number. We do have the ability now to run a query in Recruiting Solutions and identify the applicants that are we're not seeing the data being brought in on the responses to their questions. And so going forward, I will be providing that information to the agency services representatives, and they will be reaching out and contacting you on those applicants that this has impacted, so you can do some follow-up. The other item I wanted to, or announcement really I wanted to provide, there was a question asked about running reports, affirmative action reports for in the IA warehouse. And currently the reports that you are running to gather that data for those reports has not been updated with the new information that we're asking or getting from our applicant or from our employees. So you can no longer use those reports out of the IA warehouse. We are working on rolling out the new data warehouse, and those reports then will be available very soon in that environment. So again, please let me know if you have any questions. We hope to communicate a date of when we will be rolling out the new warehouse and those reports within the next couple of weeks. And if you have a need for some data immediately, we can assist you with that. Do I have any questions for me, Rika?
There is a question. Is there a way to distinguish between those who applied and those who met minimum qualifications and those who we are choosing to interview? It is not clear with the different routing options that Recruiting Solutions has. I see the initial applicant list and interview, but not a separate step for those who met minimum quals.
You're routing those that meet minimum quals is a typical path. So I would say that once you, if they're in the applied bucket and you're doing a manual review and you're not moving them to screening, you would only move those that meet the min quals to the route bucket. And if you have further questions about a business process and what would be the best next steps, please reach out to your agency services representative and they would be more than happy to help walk you through that process.
Okay, here's another question for Teresa. What happens when an applicant accepts an offer but resigns prior to their start date or reneges prior to their start date? Must we repost for the 7-day period, or may we hire our second choice from the same posting?
So this is a scenario where they have not started work. Correct? Is that? I guess that's how I would answer it. If they have not,
they have not started,
showed up for work, then you can go with your second choice. Once someone starts, then that is a hire, and then you would need to start over and post the position again.
Okay, there's a question about someone hearing from applicants who began the application process and were kicked out of the system before the application was completed with information not being saved. One specifically tried to apply 3 times and was kicked out. Very frustrated. Is this a known issue? And I would say yes, this is a known issue. Again, happening intermittently, not on a regular basis. And any specifics that individuals can provide on the steps or the error messages they were getting would be very helpful for our logs. Anything you want to add, Michelle?
The only other thing I would note is that there is an automatic timeout for security purposes. So if an applicant started their application and for some reason they had to move on to do something else, they may have gotten caught in that automatic timeout too. And that's where getting specific information is very helpful for us to determine whether or not they were actively working in the system or did they have to step away for a period of time and then got logged out due to the security provisions that we have in place that does do that for after 20 minutes of inactivity.
Okay, there's another question about the affirmative action reports. The affirmative action reports that Teresa was mentioning are not the same affirmative action data that we pull from Recruiting Solutions. Is that correct?
So what you're pulling from Recruiting Solutions is on your applicants. And the reporting, I believe, and I'm not an affirmative action expert here with regards to those reports. So the reports, maybe Nancy, you could weigh in, but the reports are, or Elizabeth, the reports are on employees, current employees. And so those are 2 different reports. One is your reporting in Recruiting Solutions, and that's giving you applicant data. And the other reports are giving you employee data. So it's coming out of Semaphore. Anything else?
Okay, a question about applicant help other than the job information line. If there are any other help services available. That would be the best place for an applicant to call during the regular hours, 9 to 4, Monday through Friday. We have a team who's very experienced at helping applicants through the application process. And if you're an agency person that needs help, then call your agency and applicant services rep.
We do have a wealth of information on the website, the careers website, and it also has 2 avenues for emailing in. There's a web form they could fill out for feedback, or there's the careers mailbox that they could send 24/7 questions or requesting assistance. The responses from the team are not 24/7, but the mailbox, at least they could log their issues.
Oh, there's also, this is Elizabeth from MMB, Elizabeth Nelson. There's a guide on the extranet that Ann Feynman and other members of MMB staff have created that has tips for you if you're working with an applicant directly, how to help them through the process, what other resources in the community that we have available that they might need if they're having issues gaining access to a computer or whatnot. There's a number of resources and information for you in that guide on the extranet. We also recently created a screen reader user guide for applicants as they're moving through the application process. That's on the careers website under applicant help, so feel free to direct users there as well.
Okay, thanks everyone for your questions. Here's another one. In the training manual, it states that we can change a person's disposition by selecting other actions, recruiter actions, and edit disposition. However, it doesn't appear this option is available.
So it may not be available depending on which bucket, where they're at in the application, or I should say in the recruiter's job opening phase. So since that's a very specific question, I would recommend that you reach out to your agency services representative, because we would need to know a little bit more detail about where are they at in the process. Are they in the screen bucket? Are they in the interview bucket? And verify whether it is a system issue that you're having or whether it just is what's available to you as a recruiter given the stage that that applicant is in.
Okay, there's another question. If an applicant gets timed out, does all the information they put in their application up to that point get deleted?
This is Michelle again, and some of that is dependent on where they were and what they might have done within the system. So if they had gone from one form to the next form, the data on the form that they had completed should be there. But if they were in the middle of completing a form and got timed out, that data may not be saved.
Okay, I think that is it on the questions. I am going to turn it over at this point to Elizabeth Nelson, who is going to talk to us about youth and development employment program opportunities. And again, don't forget the town hall meeting at the end of this month, where we will have representatives from some of these programs and a lot more information that we can provide. So invite your colleagues and HR directors. Here's Elizabeth.
Thank you, Rika. This is Elizabeth Nelson again. I'm the statewide recruiter and workforce diversity consultant here at MMB, and I wanted to give you a brief overview of what we'll be covering at the town hall so that you can come with your questions, so you can directly connect with all of these programs and talk to their program managers. I'm also going to be having a student there who's going to highlight her experience working for the program as well, and her experience working for the state and that impact that that's had on her personally. So it should be a really great opportunity for you to engage with youth and leadership development programs and hopefully bring these to your agencies beginning this summer. So I'm first going to talk about youth employment, and if you look at all of these employments holistically, they cover everything from working with high school students all the way through those who have graduated with advanced degrees. So high school, undergraduate, graduate, and then graduates of advanced degree programs. And this is going to help build your talent pipeline across all of those avenues. Starting with youth employment, these programs are working with high school students. The first is Step Up and Right Track. We started engaging with Step Up and had our first Step Up interns in 2012. And then we started working with Right Track in 2014, the first year that they had launched. Since working with Step Up, we have averaged anywhere between 12 and 30 plus interns every summer. This last summer we had 16 students through Step Up. In 2014 we had 26. For Right Track, last summer we had 16 students across the state, state agencies working for Right Track, and the initial summer we started with them, we had 11. We're looking to increase those numbers this summer. There's a strong push from the governor's office to increase our engagement with all youth development and leadership development programs, so I really highly encourage you to look at both Right Track and Step Up. Both of these programs are summer internship programs. They're 6 to 10 weeks. They can be part-time or full-time depending on your agency's needs. They have each program has a minimum requirement of $9 an hour, although most agencies pay more than that based on their minimum requirements and salary requirements for student workers or interns. Agencies provide HR management, so they would fill out a state of Minnesota timesheet, be paid by the state of Minnesota, and so forth. And then your agency would provide a supervisor to oversee intern performance, help with goal setting, and provide professional development throughout the summer. Both Right Track and Step Up are providing agencies with youth recruitment, screening, and placement. These programs, again, are working with high school youth. All of the youth are either diverse, minority students, or coming from low-income families, or have a significant barrier to employment. That may include an individual with a disability or other life circumstances. Both Right Track and Step Up provide work readiness training for their interns. Step Up interns receive that training before starting, 9 hours of work readiness training before coming to the state of Minnesota. Right Track students receive work readiness training before coming and then ongoing training while employed. 1 day a week they would attend an off-site training session through Right Track, and that time is paid and noted on their time card as well, although they're not in the office during that time. Supervisors attend orientation and receive a number of resources from both of these programs throughout the summer, and they've been really successful, and we've received great feedback from agencies who have engaged in both of these programs. Their websites are listed at the top of the slide, and this slide deck will be listed on the extranet for your review after. Another program I wanted to introduce you to is Project Search. The state has not started internships with Project Search as of yet, but I wanted it to be on your radar so you knew what it was when you hear about it in future meetings. And if you're interested in learning more about it, I ask you to reach out to me. My contact information is at the end of this presentation, and I'm happy to tell you more about the program and see if your agency might be a good pilot site for Project Search in the next year or so. Project Search works with high school students with disabilities, and instead of attending their last year of high school, they are working on-site at an agency to receive credit for school by completing 3 10-week unpaid internships. So this happens during the academic year. Again, it's an unpaid internship, and it's with high school students. There are currently 6 program sites throughout Minnesota, and the state of Minnesota is looking to become a new program site in the future. This aligns really wonderfully with Executive Order 1414 and the other accelerating Olmstead Acts that are coming through the governor's office and other agencies that are engaged in that. So again, I'm seeking agencies that are interested in learning more about the program, and my contact information is at the end of this. We engage as well in 2 leadership development programs, the first being Urban Scholars, which works with undergraduate and graduate students across the Twin Cities area. This program is based out of the city of Minneapolis. Agencies would provide 12-week paid internships over the summer for these scholars. They're full-time positions, 40 hours a week, that are classified at the management analyst level. There is a approximately $1,000 training fee that each agency would pay on top of the compensation that they're providing to the scholar, and that $1,000 training fee goes directly to the city of Minneapolis to cover costs for the training that the scholars go throughout the summer. That includes the Senior Leadership Institute, Toastmasters, and other professional development opportunities that the city coordinates for those scholars. Agencies provide HR management for these individuals and a designated supervisor to oversee scholar performance, develop goals, and evaluate performance. Also, scholars are engaged in either a mentorship or another networking opportunity with a leader in your organization. And then agencies would attend orientation in May and the recognition ceremony in August with the scholar that's assigned to their agency. Urban Scholars does all of the recruitment, screening, and application review for these individuals, and then the applicants that meet the state's needs are then forwarded to us, and we would work with your agency directly to schedule those interviews, and then the agency would select the top candidate that meets the project description and program description that they've put together. Scholars go to 8-hour leadership training per week every Wednesday, so they're out of your office every Wednesday. That time is noted on their time card, and they're paid for that time away from the office as part of this program. And then Urban Scholars provides a number of ongoing support for agency staff as well throughout it to make it a successful partnership. The second program that we engage in at the leadership development level is the Star of the North Fellowship Program. This is a program that was started by the Department of Administration and has since been expanded to other agencies. We're in our second year of participating in the Star of the North Fellowship Program statewide. It's a 12-month, 1-year paid internship fellowship program. It begins July 1st and goes for 12 months after. This is at a Management Analyst 1 or equivalent level. Agencies provide a supervisor to oversee fellow performance similar to Urban Scholars, and working with that fellow to develop key connections throughout the state and secure informational interviews. It's important for you to allow time for your fellow to attend various training and professional development opportunities as well. Those are periodically scheduled throughout the year, but not overly often where it's impacting your fellow's ability to meet performance needs and goals within your agency. And what the fellowship program will provide to you if you participate is participant recruitment and receipt of application. We work with the agencies then to schedule interviews, and they have the final selection and say in the fellow that gets brought on to their agency. The Star of the North Fellowship Program provides kind of intermittently professional development and leadership development training opportunities throughout the year. And the cohort of fellows that gets brought into the state, at least this past year, is very close. They meet regularly to touch base on what's happening in their agencies, provide feedback on their engagement in the program, share resources with each other, and provide support to each other. So it's been a really wonderful program. Right now we have 9 fellows in the program and hopefully looking to expand this. So there are a number of upcoming deadlines that I want you to be aware of. Again, we're going to be going through all of this more in depth at the town hall later this month, but I wanted you to be aware of what deadlines are coming around the corner so you can start working on this and again bring questions to the HR town hall directly. So for Step Up, there are a number of steps that you'd want to get started on right away. If you look at the top, there are 3 steps that you'd want to complete in the coming months. The first would be completing an employer pledge form online, submitting a job description by April 15th, 2016, and review and sign the Step Up Achieve Worksite Agreement, which is on their website as well. For Right Track, you'll want to complete an employer pledge form, and for both of these programs, what that pledge form entails is just the number of positions you're expecting to hire this summer through their programs. Through Right Track, you'll also want to submit a job description and a MOU through their employer portal, which can be accessed through their main website by March 25th. For both Right Track and Step Up, the type of job description that they're looking for is a 1-page job description that outlines the type of work your agency or the unit in which they'll be working does, and some minimum requirements that you might be looking for. Typically, the requirements for high school Right Track and Step Up jobs include attention to detail, ability to work in a team, collaboration. So it's very much more on the soft skill side of things and less on the hard skill side of things. These internship opportunities are supposed to provide them with knowledge, skills, and abilities and expanding their hard skills and what it takes to work in a professional office environment. For a lot of these students, it might be their first time working in a professional office environment, so we're not hopefully asking them of skills that are going to be outside of their reach. If you're looking for higher level work, then you'd want to look at either Urban Scholars or Star of the North Fellowship Program. Again, a 1-page outline of the type of work, the type of skills that they might gain in your office, and whether the position is part-time or full-time and the hours in which you're expecting that intern to work. We'll put a sample job description for Right Track and Step Up on the extranet for you to use as a guide. For Urban Scholars, you'll want to submit a job description to me by February 26th, so just around the corner. Again, that job description is an overview of the project that you'd want that scholar to work on this summer. Urban Scholar positions should really be working with mid to senior level managers and supervisors and executives within your agency. These interns and scholars are more geared towards working on research, analysis, policy, strategic planning. Again, they're undergraduate and graduate students, and based on the level of work that your agency requires, will dictate the type of scholar that they're recommending to you. The second step that you'll want to do to participate in this program is to submit and sign an MOU, and that will be emailed to you directly. So once I receive a job description that you've sent to me by email, I will follow up with you with that MOU, which you will sign as an agency. And lastly, for the Star of the North Fellowship Program, there are 2 steps to get started in this. The first is to submit a 1 to 2 paragraph description of the position, the knowledge, skills, and abilities or education requirements, and the division in which the fellow will be working, and that can come to me directly by email. We're hoping to receive those by February 15th. If you're not sure that you're able to meet that deadline but know that your agency wants to participate, please let me know that as well, and I can work with you directly. Secondly, when you do email me, please indicate the HR contact who will be responsible for, should be without an E, coordinating the re-ev applications in your agency. So agencies will get the applications forward to them after the screening, or after the application process closes in April, and you'd be responsible for reviewing those and scheduling interviews. Again, more about all of these programs will be provided at the town hall meeting later this month. There are a number of additional ways to get involved with all of these programs. I think the most important of these to look at, because the deadline is around the corner, is attending the Step Up Achieve Partner Breakfast. It's the second bullet point there. It's on February 2nd. You can register by going online. Again, this presentation with the active links will be posted on the extranet. At the Partners Breakfast, they review the program. They talk about all of the accomplishments in the last year, goals that Step Up Achieve as a whole has for this coming summer. They bring in students to talk about their experience with all of the programs. The governor and lieutenant governor will be at the event as well. We've recommended that deputy commissioners attend, so leadership from your agency will most likely be there. And we invite the HR community to attend as well to learn more about Step Up Achieve. And lastly, here's my contact information on the screen for you. I'm at the top there. I have also listed contact information for the various programs as well. So if you wanted to reach out to any of these programs to find out more about what they do, the type of students they work at, if you'd like them to come in directly and present to your agency on the work that they do and the type of opportunities that they provide to youth and future leaders throughout the state of Minnesota, please feel free to coordinate that with myself or with the programs directly. And that's all that I have. Again, the town hall meeting is on January 27th from 8:30 to 10 in the MSRS training room, and all of these individuals who are listed on this slide will be at that event along with a student who's going to share her experience working with Step Up. So it should be a really wonderful opportunity to engage in youth and leadership development and have a conversation around that.
If there are any questions for Elizabeth, please submit them to the chat. Okay, Elizabeth, are these programs exempt from MMB's hiring policy to post student workers in unclassified positions?
Yep. So all of these programs, Step Up, Right Track, Urban Scholars, and the Star of the North Fellowship Program are exempt from that 7-day posting policy. So this is one of the exceptions. If you look at that policy, there's a section on exceptions, and this is where all 4 of these programs fall.
Thank you for that question. Good question. Are Urban Scholars typically hired as student workers or a higher classification?
They're classified at Management Analyst 1 or equivalent, same with the Star of the North Fellowship Program.
And then there's a request to get this presentation sent out. Yes, we will definitely send this out to everybody. And then where are the forms located on the extranet, Elizabeth?
So the forms for all of these programs are listed on the program website. This presentation, so let me go back, for example, to Right Track here. For example, step 1 says complete the employer pledge form, and there's a link there. Once this is posted on the extranet, and we'll send it out to everyone as well, you'll be able to click directly on that and get the employer pledge form from Right Track. Same with Step Up, there's a number of forms that you need to fill out. These are all available on their websites. You could go directly to their website and get them, or you can refer to this presentation and click on any of those links to receive the forms as well. So the individual forms will not be listed on our website, but this presentation will be, which includes hyperlinks to all of the forms that you need.
Okay, I'm not seeing any additional questions, so that will conclude our WebEx today. Thank you again for your participation. It looks like we had well over 100 people on the call today, which is really awesome. We really appreciate your patience and partnering with us so that we can triage your concerns and issues as quickly as possible. And I can assure you on behalf of everybody here, we're working very hard to understand what the issues are and get them fixed and corrected and moving forward as quickly as we can. So thank you again, And please continue to send us any additional questions. We are going to continue having WebEx sessions to address, to keep you informed of the latest occurrences and fixes with the system, and also to provide other critical information to help you do your jobs better. So thanks everyone, and have a great weekend.